Angela.
Hi, Tamara.
How are you?
Oh, blessed and unstoppable. How are you?
I'm good. Bright and early on your end of the world and early on mine.
Yes, it's still dark outside.
Wow. Yes, early on both ends.
Yes. So good morning to our audience. We thank you so much for rising early to join us. And some of you may know Tamara Johnson-Shealey. She hosts Tamara for Georgia Weekly, Friday mornings, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we've become fast sister friends when my partner with the Friends of ADOS Super PAC introduced us. It must have been a few months ago by now, when he shared her link with me, because Chris Lodgson, who heads the state of California ADOS movement, was a guest on her show, and he is a frequent guest on her show. And I just fell in love with her, just her posture, her candidness, her calm, cool collectedness, because I'm a live wire, as many of you already know. But she was so calm, cool, and collected, and she managed all the moving parts on her show so seamlessly. And she gave me an opportunity as a co-host on her show twice. That gave Thank you so much. She, in that opportunity, was born. The Friends of ADOS TV channel was born because she is beautiful on the inside and the out. Just encouraging me and pouring into me that I could do this, because I've had a public life all my life, pretty much. I've always been outgoing and have a background in the theater arts. But she was the one to push me out of the nest and force me to fly at this. And this is like my third show now on the Friends of ADOS TV station. And I'm very, very grateful to her for her sistership. And even more so, her commitment to the ADOS movement, allowing us to come on her show and talk about our passion for ADOS people, which she is as well. And she puts her money where her mouth is by running for office and making sure we have a voice in Congress that can speak on our behalf. And family, we have to understand that we don't do this without people that speak about ADOS issues from the chest. And Tamara and I share similar stories with our struggle as single mothers. And that has made us empaths towards our own people. It's harder to really relate unless you've been there and understand that your trials have been turned into testimonies because of your faith. She's a faith-filled woman, and she loves her people. She's a family woman. And I'm going to stop right there and let her talk, because this is about helping her to test the waters to run for the U.S. Senate, which is a quantum leap from running for the state. And she needs us, family. We don't get this done without people like Tamara Johnson-Shealey on that hill speaking for us from the chest. And that's not just going to take her will to do it, her fortitude, her tenacity. It's going to take our dollars. And so, yes, I'm pushing strong for us to put all of our full weight behind her financially, because we don't get this done. There's no romance without finance, family. And you know this. The reason why we are currently the legs of the table everybody eats from is because we don't have anybody speaking for us. Our CBC, from what I understand, tries, but they get shot down by the white supremacists that are also a party to the CBC. So it's going to take us to outnumber them. And the only way to do that is to put money behind candidates like Tamara Johnson-Shealey. So with that said, Tamara, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the ADOS movement.
Now you asking me to speak. After you say all of that, I feel like I have a frog in my throat.
Girl, you got this.
Oh my God. I just want to say thank you, Angela, for giving me this opportunity on this broadcast. And when I met you, I mean, we just connected immediately. I mean, literally, it was like immediately. Like we had known each other all of our lives, and we had just never met. So I just want to say I love you, and I appreciate you, and I'm so proud of you for taking this leap, because I know this was like, you was like, I'm not sure I want to do this, but you were a natural. When you came on the broadcast, you were my guest co-host when I had to be out. For those of you that don't know, I'm a law student, and I had to be out, and Angela came on and killed it. Like, my numbers were like through the roof. I'm like, Angela, I didn't get numbers like this when I started. Through the roof. So I knew she was a natural. So for you to have started this broadcast, I am so very proud of you. You represent ADOS so well.
Thank you.
I'm honored that we are on this life journey together, because this is not something that we're doing haphazardly. This is not something that we are just doing just because we don't have nothing else to do. I mean, this is our life. ADOS is our life. And I came into this movement literally just this year, early this year. Chris and I had known each other from my efforts with the beauty and barber industry. For those of you that don't know that story, I am an advocate. If you see the picture, like right there, there's a picture behind me. I'm an advocate for beauty and barber professionals. I owned a nail salon myself for 10 years. I did services for 18, so I know what serving is. I actually was a nail tech. I did people's hands and I did people's feet for a living. Wow. And again, I don't know how you get any more servient than that. So I know what humility is. I know how to listen with not just my ears, but with my heart and with my mind. So it became a skill that, I made. This is how I raised my family, but it also was a skill that provided me an opportunity to learn people. And I got when you do these kind of services, you get very intimate and up close with people, because you're touching them. They tell you things about their lives. They feel safe. They feel comfortable. And it was just a beautiful career that I started watching politics on the back of my industry, because things were starting to shift, the morality in the industry. The money was changing. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to get to the root of it. So I started following politics from my perspective in the beauty and barber industry. And as I was able to dive in deeper, I realized that politics was not just in my industry. Politics was in the air we breathe, the water we drink, everything around the shoes, the clothes, the cars, everything has a political component. And that was something about politics that I didn't really recognize, that everything was political. So my political journey is just to be a career, but my political journey began with me addressing my industry politically. Did you want me to keep going, Angela? Did you have something to say?
Well, yes. I was acknowledging my very good friend, Joelle Jones from Dayton, Ohio, my diaper buddy. And then I see, and she's also running for office. And I can't wait to have her as a guest on my show. I'm putting that out there, Joelle. And I see a question from Angela Williams asking, does the CBC really try? I only see them focus on the agenda of inclusion in its organization, especially here in Maryland. Yes, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that, Angela. So thank you for that question. I feel you. And I acknowledge you, and absolutely we're going to get to that. So don't think I've forgotten you. I just want to get some more out of my guest here before we go to questions. Thank you, Tamara, because I just learned some new things too in this exchange about your background. I'd like for you to share with me, I totally concur. Everything is political, everything. And as soon as we can understand that as a people, the more educated we will become in everything that we do, the more effective we will become. We are here, myself included, because for a lack of knowledge. And as we all know, that a lack of knowledge, the people will perish. And we are in the fight for our lives to prevent from becoming the permanent underclass in the country our ancestors built with their lives. And with that said, Tamara, I would like for you to help us understand how you made the transition from being an owner of a business, understanding the politics in that, and choosing to run for office, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and share with us about that experience, how you got there, and then the experience.
Yeah, so honestly, Angela, I didn't choose, just like none of us chose ADOS. I didn't choose to run for office. Literally, it was like God pushed me to do it. Literally, he had to. And I love the beauty and barber industry, so he made it so, and this is my God's story, he made it so I was uncomfortable. I couldn't provide the same level of service that I was uncomfortable and uneasy in my spirit. And it literally pushed me out. I remember the day I heard it. I heard it in my ear, quit. And I actually write about this. I wrote a book that talks about my journey. It's called Faith, Purpose, and Politics, my journey to the state senate. And I heard God tell me to quit. And I'm like, God, you got to be kidding me. You want me to quit and do what? And I knew that was my calling. And I did it. I took a leap of faith and I quit. And I was on this journey of like listening and hearing for God to tell me what to do next. That was 2013. And then in 2014, I knew, I woke up one morning, Angela, just in tears. And I called my sister and I said, I can't stop crying and I'm overwhelmed. I said, I know I'm supposed to run for the state senate. And I said, I can't fight it. And I knew I had heard God tell me to do this. And I was like, I can't fight it. And she was like, why would you? And I did. I jumped into the race to the Georgia State Senate, no-name candidate, a predominantly white district, no-name candidate, no money. Just jumped in because God told me to do it. I actually had a primary when I jumped in the race and ended up winning the primary, Angela. And that was enough fuel to say, okay, God, I know you got me. Ran that race. And along the way, Angela, I mean, my story is written in the book. I won't go into that part of it, but ran that race, won that primary in 2014, got to the general election, and did not win, but got 37% as a no-name candidate against a staunch Republican who had been sitting there for a very long time. So 37% out of the gate against this Republican. I'm like, okay, God, I'm in this. So I run again. 2016, did not have a primary challenge in 2016, but got to the general election, 43.7%. Okay, God, we done made some headway. I knew this was a winnable race. I just had to stay the course. 2018 rolled around. All hell breaks loose. We got this Donald Trump. We got all hell is breaking loose with race. And finally, the constituency in the district where I was running, they realized I was black. Now, mind you, I've been black all my life, but for some reason in 2018, I was a black candidate. Now, these people had voted for me in 2014. These people had voted for me in 2016, but 2018, all of a sudden, I'm black. Oh, the Democratic Party, I call them out because all Democrats ain't right and all Republicans ain't wrong. So I call out Democrats just like I call out Republicans. So there was always a rift with me with the Democratic Party. In addition to the fact, another thing that I wanted to share about the PayPal button on my donation page around me testing the waters. The reason why I use PayPal, if you notice, that's different. Anytime you give to any kind of candidate, usually they use ActBlue as their platform to accept money. I don't use ActBlue. And I don't use ActBlue, Angela, because that is where the Democratic Party has access to my data. That's where they get your names and they're able to solicit you for donations. And I'm not giving the Democratic Party my data. I'm not telling them who you are because they've pimped us long enough. So that's another story. So I've been fighting the Democratic Party for quite a while because I'm I'm a Democrat, but y'all are going to get on board with what we need as a people. And I do talk black, and I talk back. So the Democratic Party couldn't control me. So ran 2018, they tried to get the Democratic Party, tried to get a black woman with straight hair and lighter skin to run against me, quote unquote. She decided not to. She didn't think, for whatever reason, I'm glad she didn't. She decided not to, but a white woman gets in the race against me in 2018. The Democratic Party operatives, I won't say the party, but operatives in the party threw their support behind this woman. And they threw their support behind this woman, Angela, because she had already made a deal in a previous race to get out of a race that she was running. So she had a deal on the table. This is the kind of stuff that they don't talk about, how they make deals inside the party, how they pick their candidates, and how they maneuver things to get the people they want in place. So she was asked to get out of a race, the 6th congressional district race where Lucy McBath is, and I'm sure we'll talk about her in this broadcast too. Mm-hmm. She was asked to get out of the race again, where Lucy McBath wasn't the winner at that time, but it was Karen Handel, John Ossoff. It was a jungle primary. So nevertheless, they asked this woman who ran against me to get out of the race. Her name is Sally Harrell. They asked her to get out of the race. She gets out of the race, but she has a deal on the table with the Democratic Party. So when it was time for me to run, she turned in her deal. So because she had a deal with the party, they supported her outright, operatives in the party, outright in my face, and made it a very race. This white woman didn't have any black people, or people of color on inside of her campaign, but 2 of them, and I met both of them. So I can just tell you it was a race that was ran against me. She beat me. And here's the kicker. She went on to win in 2018 a seat a district that I had nurtured for 3 election cycles. And she went on to win and literally never had a black agenda. She never had anything specific. She didn't pick up a lot of my talking points. She didn't have a black agenda. She didn't have to. You know why? Because a lot of the candidates in 2018, for those of you who know who Stacey Abrams is, a lot of those candidates rode Stacey Abrams' coattail to their win. They didn't have to have a black agenda. They didn't have to talk to us and promise us any damn thing. They gave us a black face. Stacey was on the top of the ticket. Stacey did a great job of galvanizing and organizing and getting us to the polls because we wanted to see her be the first black governor woman in this country. We wanted that as a people, just like we wanted Barack to be the first black president. So there was a lot of momentum around her. So there was they didn't have to talk to us. They didn't have to promise us anything. They gave us a black face. Stacey didn't win, but this white woman who ran against me did. And she won on the heels of a black woman. Off her labor, after she won off my labor, then she won on the heels of Stacey Abrams' labor. So that's my political story. And I was bitter. I was angry, but God didn't let me stay bitter and angry long, because that Tuesday when I didn't win, that Friday I started the broadcast, Angela. So I started my broadcast that Friday. After that Tuesday, I didn't win. I was not going to stay down. I was not going to stay quiet. I was not going to not talk about the fact that y'all rolled me, stole from me, rolled Stacey. And now the Democratic Party has this win, and they still don't have a black agenda. You still don't have anything that you're promising people beyond the hard. So I had a huge problem with it, and that's when I started the broadcast. And I've been doing the broadcast since that Friday of 2018 after I didn't win up until now.
Well, you've been doing an amazing job with your broadcast. I'm so proud of you for rising from the ashes like the phoenix you are. And we're just, I want to go back to what you said earlier about you didn't really happen to this race. The race happened to you. Uh-huh. That is akin to this movement. You came on when the movement was forming. We didn't happen to this movement. This movement happened to us. And it is the same pull that I had. It's the same thing that Yvette Carnell talks about, how God has commissioned us for such a time as now, because to whom much is given, much is required. And it is not okay for me to be successful, for me to have a home, and not be concerned about my fellow ADOS who here in LA are amongst the working homeless, living in their cars. It's not okay for us to be 6% of the population, but I think one of my friends told me we're like 70, 80% of the homeless on Skid Row. Okay? It's not okay for the ADOS, myself included, to have challenges finding work in Los Angeles, despite the breadth of my experience, the breadth and depth of my experience, despite my education. They have now here in LA made it so that you have to speak Spanish in order to get an interview. And that doesn't guarantee you a job because you have no social capital. There's no one in a position to greenlight your employment. It's run by Hispanics and whites down here. So the struggle is real. And this is why we need people like yourself with the tenacity and the persistence. That's the only way we change how this works, is for us to persist. And you're right. It's enough to bring you to tears. It's exhausting to know that we have a two-party system that we have to work within the confines of to get things accomplished. And that goes to Angela Williams' question. Does the CBC really try? What do you think about that, Tamara? And then I'll make a comment on it.
I think they're not trying hard enough. I think a lot of these politicians get in these seats and they are afraid. And that goes back to Lucy McBath, who is the story I want to tell about her. She did not sign H.R. 40. She is the 6th Congressional District representative here in Georgia who has not signed on the H.R. 40, the last I checked. And when I found this out a few months back, myself and another activist here, we started asking questions. Why have you not signed on the H.R. 40? You're a Black woman, and you won't sign on the H.R. 40, whose son was murdered. If you know her story, he was in Jacksonville, Florida, I believe, and he was at a gas station and his music was loud, and I'm not sure if you guys heard this.
That was her son?
That was her son.
I know that story.
Yeah, most people around the country know that story. That was her son. And but this is how you got to understand when a lot of these people get elected, they're beholden to the party, and then they get scared. And I actually blogged about her fear because Lucy's 6th Congressional District overlaps with the Senate district that I ran in. So she's a congressperson in the district where I ran. And I can just tell you that because of the white population and her white constituency, she is unnerved about doing anything that is perceived to be Black. So the backlash, my article that I wrote about my race when I did not win against Sally Harrell I talked about the white backlash because there isn't such thing as a white backlash. So Lucy is afraid of the white backlash. That is what I understand why she has not signed on to HR. She's afraid of what would happen if she does. And it's just a study about reparations.
Right.
I think you stuck right on the fact that this was her son. I think that's where I think you got stuck. Everything that has happened to her, why would she not?
This is what baffles my mind, but I guess this is true for all of them. The majority of them are operating in fear. I think you just hit it on the head. And I think also I just recently learned from Marlon Aldridge that the CBC is not solely comprised of us. It's not just, first of all, it's not even just ADOS. There are Black immigrants that comprise the CBC. And to me, that's problematic because why would they be full-chested about our repair? From what I understand, Sheila Jackson Lee is Jamaican.
And this is why, and I haven't talked too specifically about my agenda with my testing the waters to the U.S. Senate, because I really want to get this right. And one of the agenda items that I am highly considering as a top agenda item is some sort of registry that specifically says who ADOS is. Because this is where we have to, there has to be something that differentiates us and says these people are ADOS. Because when you put us all in the same pool of blackness, black is black, but we know black ain't black.
That's absolutely the truth. Let's talk, let me just finish that out. I think going back to my point, if close to half of us, I don't know the percentages, but if we aren't solely a part of the CBC, how effective can we really be? If white people or others are in the CBC, which I'm just now learning, if they're in the CBC, how do we ever get anything done for ADOS if the majority of the people in the CBC are non-ADOS?
We've never, but see, this is where this is why this movement is so important, because now we are defining ADOS. Like, there's never been a definitive, ADOS is new. Like, we're now speaking a whole new language, and we're saying, wait a minute, this Black agenda is not an agenda that is specific to those of us who have done this work in this, who are descendants of slaves. Like, we're now defining who we are. So I'm not mad that we have, this CBC that's been, we got allies, because we need our allies, and I think that there just needs to be some strategy around how we actually utilize our relationships in the CBC. Does that make sense?
It does, but
a lot of work to do.
It does, but if they're afraid to be courageous and bold, you're absolutely right. The distinction is needed. This is what was discussed when I went to Maxine Waters, her census forum out here in LA. The fact that we're all lumped together under African American really masks our failure, especially down here where Nigerians are worth about $75,000 liquid to American descendants of slavery is worth about $200 liquid. So it's really problematic, especially when you're dealing with Bernie Sanders, for example, who is talking about erasing student loan debt. Well, when you look at who it helps, only 16% of American descendants of slavery have student loan debt. What about the other 84% that don't have student loan debt? So basically, class-based policies don't fix race. And we're not saying to the candidates that it's not okay to have class-based policies. What we're saying is it's not okay not to fix us before you introduce class-based policies.
But we didn't know that. Okay, so this is where the movement is in its, it's in such an infancy stage. They didn't know there was a us. We didn't know there was a us. We're now discovering that there is a us, and we have a voice. So
right.
It's like we're at the beginning. So it's like we see the problem, now we know how to fix it. We are real clear on how to fix it. So we're timely. Like we're right on time.
Okay, that's good to know.
I'm excited about this because I know we are where we're supposed to be. We are. Now we see the problem, now we can fix it.
Absolutely, and that's what we're moving to do. And this is why we've got 2 projects going right now within the ADOS movement. Let me give that a plug. Project Takeover is about ADOS infiltrating the NAACP and the Urban League. Locally, nationally, we've got to take these places over, because when they stopped doing things on our behalf, we got ghosted. But that's the problem. We can't just leave. We got to lean in. And the other project is to show up and vote down ballot. Basically, if you can fill in ADOS everywhere a candidate is not doing anything for you, that's what we're going to do at the polls. We're not playing. We're no longer resolved to be the mules for the Democratic Party. And if you saw Jamie Fowler running all over the country with his microphone in his hand, going up to the presidential candidates, asking them about their intention for reparations, they ignore him